MoistCritical, an extremely popular YouTube streamer, has insomnia. The other day, he posted a video about his own struggles with insomnia where he ranked all of his sleep hacks that have kind of helped him out, maybe sometimes. Today, I'm going to see if I can help him out. Hopefully he watches this. He probably won't. He has about 20 million subscribers, but that's okay because hopefully it helps you out. In case you're wondering, my name is John. I had chronic insomnia for over 7 years, and now I help other people overcome their own insomnia when medication, sleep hygiene, and CBTI don't. Chances are this video is going to make you feel way less alone. I'm almost certain MoistCritical is going to bring up something that you've tried out as well to overcome your own insomnia. And in general, I bet if you've been going through chronic insomnia for some time, you've tried out a lot of different things, and you've probably looked back in all of your sleep hacks and felt something like this.
That did nothing. It didn't do anything for me. It didn't work for me. That hasn't really worked. It doesn't do anything.
So in this video, I'm going to give my thoughts on everything he's tried out, explain why it hasn't been so helpful for him, but much more importantly, towards the end, I'm going to explain what is much more helpful to do instead. Now, before he goes over his first insomnia cure, he says something that's really interesting that I think a lot of people going through insomnia have voiced as well. So I think it's important for us to check this out.
Got this broken up into two tiers, worked and didn't work. I considered doing a middle tier where it was like ephemeral, worked for a little bit, but I didn't think that was necessary. If it didn't work long term, it's fucking useless to me. It's dead to me. So what's the point? It either works or it doesn't. I either get to 6 feet tall or I don't. It's always 50-50. So let's go ahead and start with what I think to be the most...
So a few things. It's interesting that he considered an ephemeral tier where it kind of worked for a little bit and then it stopped working. Does that sound familiar to you? Do you have insomnia treatments where something works for a little bit and then it stops working? It's a fairly common thing, and the reason why I think that's happening is because of something that we're going to see come up again over and over in this video called a delegation effect, where it's essentially, the delegation effect essentially describes how the placebo effect works, where we start taking a thing or we do a thing to make sleep happen, and it works for a little bit. We sleep for 8 hours a night for maybe multiple weeks. Great. The reason why this is happening is because we're placing our internal pressure to sleep onto this thing. So we have this uncomfortable relationship with sleep. We take this thing, maybe it's a drug or a supplement or an activity, and what it's doing is it's offloading our responsibility and pressure to sleep onto this thing, and so sleep is able to happen as a result of that. But unfortunately, because we're not resolving the underlying long-term aversion, the underlying anxiety or fear or aversion to losing sleep that we've developed, that's why it only really works not really for a long-term period of time. So that's why we try this thing, oh, it works, and then it stops working. Then we try out a different thing, oh, okay, it works, or maybe it doesn't work. And that's in the better case scenario. It's also not uncommon for us to try out something and then not really see much success with that at all. And by that logic, when I hear what he's saying where he has two tiers, worked and doesn't work, technically nothing should be in the worked category because he's making this video. If anything actually worked for his insomnia, then he wouldn't have insomnia. He wouldn't be making this video. Chances are when people go through insomnia, we find something that really works for us over a long period of time, but of course we're still dealing with insomnia. For me personally, that was sleep restriction. I really relied on CBTI, sleep restriction, to help make sleep happen, but of course, wouldn't you know it, my sleep throughout all those years looked like this. It was up and down, up and down. It never really addressed the underlying root cause of insomnia. But now that I have addressed that, my sleep is now consistently really good. I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep almost every single night, and that's been the case for about 2.5 years now. First up, he starts talking about melatonin. So let's check that out.
5 milligram gummies, and it worked sometimes, but not all the time. So sometimes I'd be popping like a couple of these puppies a night and still getting nothing out of it. Just still lying there wide awake and just tossing and turning, not getting any restful slumber. And I know the research says that if you take this like in large quantities over a long period of time, it can actually kind of fuck with your body because your body naturally produces melatonin. And if you're supplementing it here, it kind of triggers the body to stop producing as much. So then you become kind of reliant on melatonin supplemental melatonin to get sleepy. So just a whole can of worms. I've struggled with insomnia pretty much my entire adult life. So melatonin has always been like this side character that keeps popping up in every couple of seasons of my life that I try and dust off out of the old Batman utility belt to see if it actually works for me, and it always has underwhelming results. And hopefully through the extended use of melatonin that I've had throughout my life, it hasn't torpedoed my body's ability to make melatonin. But regardless, this comfortably sits in the didn't work tier for my insomnia.
Okay, so right off the bat, we can hear him say, yeah, man, I do this thing, and it works kind of sometimes for a little bit, and then it stops working. And when things get really sticky for him in his sleep, it sounds like he tries it, pulls it out of the medicine cabinet and goes, okay, well, I might as well give this a shot. I mean, but you can also hear, excuse me, but you can also hear the conflict that he has, the tug of war, where like, oh man, I kind of want to take this thing, but also I'm worried that this is going to be hurtful to me in some way. Am I hurting my body by taking this thing? And that just adds another layer of complexity to his already uncomfortable relationship with sleep. And that's usually the case for people who have found delegation effects, maybe in the form of medication. Some people will take a drug that they're really not comfortable taking with long term, even if there's no known side effects to them, no visible side effects that they're experiencing right now. They feel like they're doing some sort of biological time bomb where, like, man, at some point down the line, this is going to start impacting me in a bad way, so I don't want to take this forever. But they're scared to not take it because they're scared or nervous or anxious to continue to lose sleep. So, right there. Next up, we have him talking about another supplement.
But I've tried GABA, and again, that one didn't work for me either. I will say, like, I've done all of these a lot, and maybe there were like one or two instances where it was able to help me get some sleep that night, but doing them like over a long period of time, it wasn't consistently helping me fall asleep. So for me, that goes into the didn't work tier.
Yeah, so by now he's got a number of supplements in the didn't work column. He's got melatonin, magnesium, it looks like CBD, now he's got GABA, and same sort of behavior. Maybe they worked for a little bit, my sleep went up a little bit, but then it didn't really work out in the long term. And usually it's very common I'm kind of surprised that maybe he has done this and just didn't say it here. It's common for people to say, well, maybe I should try combining all of them all at once. Surely I will get some sleep if I do that. And, that's something that I tried out as well. It's a very common tactic, and it doesn't really work because, again, it's not addressing the underlying issue that is driving insomnia, which is the aversion that we've developed to losing sleep. That's why you can throw all the supplements, all the drugs at it all day and not really see the long-term results that we want. Next up, we can hear him talking about dietary changes.
Next, eating healthy food before bed. So this was something I saw as like old school advice of like eat some really healthy food before bed, because you always hear that thing about like food coma when you eat a lot. And so I tried eating healthy food before bed. That did nothing, obviously. I then tried the inverse of that, of eating unhealthy food before bed. And actually, I had a little bit more success with that one. I was fucking chowing down on Wawa gas station sandwiches. Like, it was like 4 or 5 months ago. I went over like 3 weeks of just ordering sandwiches from Wawa at like 2, 3 a.m. when I couldn't sleep. Eating those puppies, scarfing them down. And there was actually a few nights where like my belly was full, my tummy was stuffed, and I did actually fall asleep with all that grease. But it didn't work every time, and it eventually lost all of its luster, and I stopped being able to sleep and just started feeling like a slob. So
Okay, so changing our lifestyle to get more sleep, a really common mechanism, a common sleep strategy that people do to try to get overcome insomnia. Now, of course, if somebody wanted to start eating healthier on their own accord, great, no problems here. It's when we use it as a means to try to desperately get some sleep, then it's not really the most helpful thing here. And as you can imagine, it's even worse when we go in the other direction, like he did, where we start eating unhealthy foods just to get some sleep. Why? Because we're so desperate that we're going to try anything out to make sleep happen. And as you can imagine, or as you heard, he started to develop a little bit of a delegation effect there, where he started eating really unhealthy food. He noticed this pattern where, oh man, if I eat this really unhealthy thing, I forget what it was exactly. I think he called it a Wawa. If I have this thing, this gas station food, and then I go to bed, I'm able to get some sleep. Okay, great. So if I need to get some sleep, then I need to eat some really unhealthy food, and I'm just going to do that for every night for the rest of my life. And he probably doesn't actually want to do that. A lot of people probably don't want to eat something really unhealthy right before they go to bed all the time, because they know it's probably not the healthiest thing for them. But that just adds another layer of complexity, and it makes our relationship with sleep that much more stressful when we feel like we have to do something we don't want to do just to make sleep happen. It also goes on to talk about eating no food at all whatsoever. Let's listen to that real quick.
tried, of course, no eating, no drinking or anything, like no calories, 3 hours before bed. And I've done like intermittent fasting and stuff. Like I've tried to go to bed without any food at all, so there's no digestion happening. And that is by far the worst for my sleep. I actually cannot sleep on like a fully empty stomach. And heavens to Betsy, Lord help us if my stomach growls when I'm lying in bed. That may as well just be an air raid siren. I am cooked for the entire evening.
So I tried this out as well when I was going through insomnia. I wasn't really trying to avoid the food or the digestion aspect of it, but I was trying to make sure that I didn't have to worry about using the bathroom in the middle of the night. So I would go thirsty for a few hours before going to bed. I only did it for 5 days or so. It was really uncomfortable, and of course it didn't work. It was also difficult for me because I trained martial arts later in the evening, and after my workouts I was always very thirsty, so it was extra hard for me to not drink anything. Now, if I was a little bit more desperate, I might have considered switching my workout times to the early morning so I could drink as much as I wanted to in the morning. But you can see how much, do you see how much I would be basing my life around trying to make sleep happen, which just reinforces the idea that losing sleep is a really awful, terrible thing that we cannot experience no matter what. And that's not the most helpful outlook to have when we're trying to overcome insomnia for good. Another thing I wanted to touch on, look at his tier list real quick. Do you see how quickly insomnia can become an endless amount of rabbit holes? And all these things can be complicated just by themselves. So for example, looking at the magnesium glycinate, he could say at one point, well, okay, 60 milligrams didn't work, maybe 120 milligrams, maybe 180 milligrams. Have I developed a tolerance? Okay, well, better cycle off that and then cycle on it and then supplement with something else. Maybe I need to combine CBD oil with GABA in a specific way. I have to maybe it wasn't working because I was taking it at the wrong times. And it's extremely exhausting. No one wants to experience sleep in that way. So something I want you to maybe try to take action on here, something actionable you could try out. The next time you see a solution designed to be a quick fix for your insomnia, like a pill or a supplement, or maybe some sort of activity, I wouldn't recommend spending that much time getting invested in it. Overcoming insomnia is usually not a quick fix, as badly as we want it to be, for better or for worse. Next up, in We Can All Be Adults Here, he talks about masturbating to make sleep happen. Let's listen to that.
I've tried Jorkin the Peebness. This one has no real research behind it, but when you ejaculate, there's always that relaxation period, the post-nut clarity I'm sure you've heard of. I've tried numerous times just, really getting after it, playing the skin flute and seeing if that will help me like relax enough to just fall asleep. Not really. That hasn't really worked.
When we have insomnia and we're worried about not falling asleep, and we ask ourselves, yeah, how can I make myself relax? That's the key to falling asleep. If I make myself relaxed, then I will be able to fall asleep, or the chances of falling asleep would be much greater. So what are relaxation things? Well, in this case, it's masturbation, but it could be something like taking a hot shower or doing meditation or anything like that. Whenever we say, if X makes me relax, or is even correlated with relaxing, and I do X, that will make me fall asleep, it's usually not the most helpful thing. Like, it technically could be a relaxing activity, whatever it is, but whenever we try to chase relaxation because hopefully I fall asleep, that's not really helpful. Now, he says something really interesting here that I want you to pay attention to when he talks about white noise.
Noise, and by extension, ambient noise and all of that. That has done fucking nothing for me. Which was actually surprising, because in the middle of the day, like, white noise it'll hypnotize me, put me into a trance, and I'll fall asleep sometimes. In fact, I can fall asleep much easier during the day than I can at night. Like, if I go lie on my couch when the sun's out, like fully out in the middle of the afternoon, I will just instantly go to sleep with no issue, no tantrums, no nothing. I fall asleep so much easier during the day. And I think some of that is contributing white noise is contributing in some of that, because throughout the day you hear a bunch of, like, animals and stuff around here, or like people driving, things like that. Or like recently, a lot of rain. But at night, when I try and mimic these sounds through like videos or whatever, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't help.
Okay, so I can fall asleep much easier during the day than at night. You don't say. This is also a not uncommon thing for people with insomnia to experience. Why? Because there's no pressure for them to sleep during the day. If sleep happens, that's great. But really, when it's nighttime, that's a different story, because we're definitely supposed to be asleep there. I mean, notice he specifically says, I don't have any tantrums during the daytime. When we talk about tantrums or emotional outbursts or anger during the night, I mean, that speaks to how much of a strong aversion to losing sleep that we've developed. And it doesn't have to say, in this video or in other videos, you've probably heard me say that, we have a fear of losing sleep. It doesn't have to be fear. It usually results in us being, when we have insomnia, that's the dominant emotion that usually happens, but it can be something a little bit more mild. It could be something like frustration or annoyance. Other people, it can be something a little bit more along the lines of anger. It doesn't have to be fear, and so the reason why I say that is because a lot of people going through insomnia say, well, I'm not anxious about losing sleep. I'm not afraid of losing sleep. True, but you can hear his frustration as he's talking about it. And I'm not trying to say that that's bad of him to feel frustrated. It's a very natural human reaction. I felt the exact same way. But it just speaks to how much of a complicated relationship that he's developed with sleep, which is essentially insomnia. That is the root cause of this chronic long-term condition with insomnia. Now pay attention to this part where he starts talking about going on walks and the sun.
7 a.m., 8 a.m., and I've been awake the entire night. I go for a walk and then come back, and then I can fall asleep pretty often. But I don't know if that's because of the walk itself or just because the sun starts to come out, the sun is out, and I just have a much easier time falling asleep in those circumstances. So I'm not entirely sure if it's the walk or the sun. I'm gonna, I'll put going for a walk in the worked category.
Okay, so it's early morning, maybe 6, 7, or 8 o'clock in the morning. It's been a long night of sleep, and he says, you know what, I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm just going to do something else because it sucks to be continuing to fight in this bed. I'm just going to go out for a walk, and then sometimes when I go back to bed, I fall back asleep. It's really common for people with insomnia to finally fall asleep in the last hour or two that they're in bed. And the reason why it kind of does have to do with the sleep, but not in the way that he thinks. It's not that it's affecting our circadian rhythm in a beneficial way to make sleep happen. It's more so we see that as a sign of, okay, the stress, the fighting period is over. I give up. I didn't get any sleep. And they sort of let go of the struggle, and then sleep happens in the last hour or so that they've given themselves for bedtime. So that is very common. I think that's what's going on here. Now, you've most likely heard about me talk about in some of my other videos, what could be helpful to do during during bedtime if sleep isn't happening. You might have heard me say that it could be more helpful to do something enjoyable, like reading a book. Now, he says that he has an issue with that here, but I want to speak to that because there's a nuance here.
Reading a book, that has done fucking nothing for me. I've tried reading. I even made a video on one of the books I read, which was Haunting Adeline, a revolting, abhorrent pile of dog shit that feels like it's a crime that it even got published. But I chose a book like that because it's something I'm not interested in at all, and I started reading it because I thought it would help me sleep. Because I tried reading things I was interested in, and that didn't do anything to help me sleep because, well, I was interested in reading them, so it was pretty stimulating. So I chose, on purpose, made the conscious decision, strategically chose some trash like Haunting Adeline to help be a lullaby for me, and that didn't work either. Like maybe the first...
So some things to speak on here. Yes, doing a pleasurable activity in the middle of the night is usually much more helpful to overcome insomnia. But the nuance here is it's not helpful to do it if you're trying to make sleep happen. In this case, he first tried out reading something that wasn't really enjoyable. He's trying to force himself to fall asleep. He's reading a really boring or terrible book, and he's trying to do that as a trick to make himself feel sleepy or bored and fall asleep. But then the counterpoint to that is, but I tried reading a book that I genuinely enjoyed, but it really kept me stimulated, and it wasn't able to make me fall asleep. So when we're doing things in the middle of the night for the sake of it because we find it enjoyable, when we're repairing our relationship with sleep and nighttime wakefulness, it is much more helpful to do enjoyable things, even if they make us stimulated. However, it is not a quick fix. So what will happen is that people will try to do these enjoyable things. Maybe it could be it doesn't even have to be reading a book. It can be something like watching their favorite Netflix show or whatever. But they say, oh, this is stimulating me too much. The blue light from the screen is keeping me awake. I'm worried that this is waking me up too much. First of all, it's not a quick fix. It does take time, so I don't want people to be discouraged. You're not going to overcome insomnia overnight, or even most likely not even a couple of nights, just simply from doing your favorite activity. It is, for better or worse, it is a process. But the fact that he finds himself being stimulating, that's a common reactionary fear that we get when we're doing something that we find to be too enjoyable. Oh no, this is going to wake me up, this is going to stimulate me, I need to stop doing this. Which is just further evidence to highlight the fact that we are afraid or anxious or uncomfortable in some way around the idea of losing sleep, which is an even greater which is even more so of an invitation to voluntarily choose to experience wakefulness. One actionable bit of advice that I would give here, I would not put too much stock in terms of listening to people who are currently going through insomnia with their latest sleep hack that's worked for the past few weeks, if it's a quick fix. Because if you asked this guy some time ago what works for his insomnia, he might have given you an answer during a brief period where, say, melatonin was actually working for him. Yeah, I've been taking melatonin for the past 2 weeks. It works great. You might then say to yourself, well, okay, then that will be the answer for me. And when we've been dealing with chronic long-term insomnia, usually the answer, again, doesn't come from a quick fix. At best, they work for a little bit, but then they stop working. So what should he be doing instead? Again, usually what's much more helpful here is to address the aversion that we've developed around losing sleep itself. He's obviously very frustrated and upset about losing sleep here, but by being more open to the idea of losing sleep and seeing it as less and less of a threat over time, that's much more helpful. Why? Well, to be brief, if we go to bed and we feel like that there's a lot on the line, as in, oh man, I hope this doesn't go poorly tonight, I hope I get some sleep, I can't have another night of bad sleep, then that inherently puts a lot of pressure on us. It makes us feel like we're in a situation where there's a lot on the line. And when we are in dangerous situations like that, healthy brains usually don't let us fall asleep. It would be irresponsible for them to let us fall asleep. You wouldn't fall asleep if you were in another dangerous situation like a burning building or if you were being mugged. So if anyone is watching this and can actually get in touch with this guy, great. I'd love to be able to help him out. I mean, I would leave a comment, but he gets thousands of comments every second. He's such a, big name on YouTube. But in the meanwhile, if you're watching this, I can help you out. If you want to get in touch and have a quick call about your insomnia, I've got a link in the description below. So I hope this was helpful for you. Here at Insomnia to Peace, I help you overcome your insomnia for good.